Now let's talk about pricing. If you are a balloon artist, how much should you charge for your services? Now this is kind of a difficult subject to talk about because the answer to this about how much you should charge or where you should price yourself as a balloon artist, that can vary greatly from country to country, from state to state, region to region, city to city. There's a lot of determining factors that go into what you should charge for your services. But when you strip it all down, it ultimately comes down to two things. One, how much do you feel your time and your efforts are worth? And two, how much are people in your area willing to pay for your time and your services? Now, both of these two things are very closely connected because on the one hand, regardless of what your customers are willing to pay for your services, if you're not willing to work for that amount, then it doesn't matter. But on the other hand, regardless of what you feel your services are worth, it doesn't matter if your customers are not willing to pay that amount for your services. But of course, your location isn't the only thing that determines how much you're able to charge for your services. Your rate can also be determined by things like experience level, skill level, and business reputation. Of course, balloon artists that are more skilled, more experienced, and have a better business reputation in the community should be able to charge more than balloon artists that are just starting out. But that's not really what you want to know. What you really want to know is dollars, right? You want to know how much. Give me an actual number. Well, I'm going to try my best. Now, I've twisted balloons all over, but for the sake of this video, I am not even going to try to attempt to discuss what you should charge or what your rates should be in other countries other than the United States, because I just don't have enough experience personally to even be able to make an educated guess on what that actual number should be. But I feel like I've twisted in enough different cities and locations within the United States, and I know enough different artists located all over the United States that I feel like I can give a more accurate representation or more accurate window of maybe what your pricing should look like as a balloon artist. Now, I just wanted to say, before I start throwing numbers out there, this is just my opinion based on my experience. You can agree or disagree. I'm not saying you're wrong if you charge differently. I'm just saying this is kind of where I think we should all be aiming for. I feel that as a balloon artist in the United States, you should be charging a minimum of $100 an hour. If you live in or near a city, even if it's a small city, you should have no problem finding plenty of clients willing to pay $100 an hour for a talented balloon artist. Now, I do know that if you live in a small town and not a city, it may be difficult to find enough clients to keep you busy year-round. So if that's the case, if you're finding that to be the case for you, I would recommend that maybe you might just have to drive a little bit further for your events so that you're closer to a major city. Now, of course, the wealthier of an area you are in, the more experienced of a twister you are, the more skilled of a twister you are, the better business reputation you have in your area. That will all raise what you are able to charge for your services. I personally know balloon artists who charge more than $250 an hour. However, for me in my area, and based on what the other artists that are near my skill level in my area, based on what they're charging, we couldn't really get away with charging $250 an hour because there are enough talented balloon artists in Houston that are charging significantly less than that. So as I said, I believe that as a balloon artist in America, I think $100 an hour should be the minimum, and the maximum, I don't really believe there is a maximum to what you can charge. It just really depends on what your clients are able to pay. And I mean, if you're able to charge $500 an hour and you have clients willing to pay you that, go for it, good for you. Send some of them my way. But I believe as a general rule, most balloon artists should probably fall somewhere between $120 per hour and $200 per hour. I find that most balloon artists in America, they're able to charge that much and still get a good amount of work. So that's, I think, where I would, as an artist who's trying to figure out where your pricing should be, I would kind of aim somewhere in between $120 an hour and $200 an hour, somewhere in between there based on your skill level and based on the area you live in, with $100 at the low side. But again, you have to know your area. You have to know what the other artists in your area are charging. So it may be something where you need to get all of the artists in your area together and be like, hey, what are we charging? Should we all, be competitive and charge, the same rate? Now, when it comes to balloon decor, that's a whole nother beast, and I'm not really super experienced with decor, so I'm not going to be the best one to give pricing advice for balloon decor, like arches and columns and things like that. I know some people have kind of worked out a formula that works for them. I've heard some people say something along the lines of like they charge $20 per linear foot for an arch or a column. I've heard people say $25 per linear foot, $30 per linear foot, $50 per linear foot if it's an organic. Like, I've heard different people give different pricing that they use to kind of standardize and make pricing for balloon decor easier. For me, I don't do enough decor to have kind of like a standard pricing model like that. Like, I charge this much per foot. So for me, I charge based on how much time I think it's going to take me to make that balloon decor. So if I'm looking at the balloon decor someone's asking me to make, and I'm looking at, ooh, this is gonna be a pretty big thing. This is gonna take 4 hours, or this is gonna take 5 hours for me to build all of the stuff they're wanting me to build. Then I just charge them like I would charge for twisting, and I charge them my normal hourly rate for 5 hours. And that works for me. Again, but decor is not my specialty. I'm a twister. I do some decor, but I'm not a decor guy. I'm a twister that does some decor. So a decor expert would definitely be able to give you better, more accurate advice on how to price decor. But for me, what works for the very small amount of decor gigs that I do, I find it works for me to just charge based on my normal hourly rate, what I would charge as a twister. And I just look at a good decor event, and I kind of estimate based on my experience how much time I would have to spend on this. And that's how I charge, and that works for me. And at the end of the day, that's what it's really all about. As a balloon artist, as a business owner, you have to find the pricing that works for you and works for your clients, because you have to make your clients happy and you have to take care of your family, right? So you're trying to balance those two things. You want to, on the one hand, give a rate that's affordable and attractive to your customers, but at the same time, you got bills to pay and you got a family to take care of. So you kind of got to balance those things and mix those two things together and find out what works best for you. So if you've been struggling with kind of how to price, I hope this video helps.